Welcome to the Global Wellness HQ family of podcasts. We are your international headquarters for resources and ideas and insight in relation to the 9 elements of holistic wellness. Join us as we interview local and international wellness experts and learn how you can implement and improve one element or dimension of wellness at a time. Our experts will share their practical tips on wellness in one of these core areas: emotional, intellectual, occupational, physical, environmental, financial, spiritual, social, or habitual. We created our family of podcasts as a resource for anyone who is looking to integrate the 9 elements of holistic wellness into their daily lives. Welcome to the show. The Global Wellness HQ family of podcasts is proudly sponsored by the Global Wellness HQ community. It's an online membership group where we meet, we share ideas, we share insights, and we all work together and help one another discover our own personal wellness journeys. If you'd like to join us, you can easily click the link below or scan the QR code, and we love hearing your stories. So we hope to see you in the community. Hi, everyone. I am excited. I'm introducing you to my new friend, Amy Getz. We met through Esther Deutsch. Thank you, Esther. Amy, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
My gosh, Jeff, you are my new friend. I'm super excited and always grateful for any connection Esther sends my way because I know it's going to be a lovely connection and collaboration for the long term. I'm Amy Getz. I am a wealth manager and financial advisor. I work for IRC Wealth. I believe wealth is for everyone. And to even go more granular, I believe wealthy women change the world. I am certainly never would be considered anti-man, but I am certainly pro-women. And I believe wealth in the hands of good people changes the world. So that is, and I can certainly get into more detail of my background and what I do, but in a nutshell, that's who I am.
I love it. And I think we're going to go on a couple of tangents. Before we started recording, we talked a little bit about mindset. We talked a lot about networking. Let's start with a really fun question. What are you passionate about in life?
Ooh, so in my professional life, I'm very passionate about making sure that wealth is in the hands of good people, most especially women. I love to work with people that are in financially tender situations. I find that I do really well with people that have had transitions, right? Things like bereavement, empty nesting, divorce, job loss, sale of a home. So I am passionate about helping people feel like their hand is being held on their journey. Our core values are education, planning, and simplicity. And I want everyone to feel like they know what's happening with their money and they have a connection and resource in myself to walk with them on a long-term journey. In my personal life, I am passionate about travel and adventure and experience because I truly believe it's a very small world. We're all inherently the same. We may just have a different, outer look, but in the end, we're all connected. And so the more that I can learn about cultures and communities and experience the food, the location, the language, and those sorts of things, then I feel like I am more connected in this world.
I love that. And I think that's huge. We want connection. I think connection goes a long way. Uh,
Mhm.
Now, I'm going to ask you a twist on my normal question is what's the best business advice you've ever
Oh.
received? I feel like you're more someone who could speak to what's the best financial advice you've ever
Mm.
received.
Yeah, you know what? Automate your savings. The reason that I am financially free at this point and how I got here was from a very young age. I prioritized paying myself first, and I made it somewhat foolproof in that I invested in my 401k. So it sort of happened behind the scenes. But in addition to that, I automated my savings. And at some point when I was younger and even earlier in my marriage, it was small dollar amounts, but I still, as soon as a paycheck came in, it was automatically a few days later, money being sent out like any other bill, if you will, and consistently doing that, consistently increasing that as I made more money, as my family made more money. As Americans, we tend to make more and spend more and make more and spend more. And so if you can sort of get comfortable with your lifestyle, and as you make more, start to save more and prioritize your future, what I call wealthy later, versus wealthy now decisions, then that is the secret to painlessly, I would say, becoming financially free, because it's just incrementally over time, and it's sort of fixed. And I don't want to say forget it, but in a way, a little bit, it's until you can reevaluate every quarter, every 6 months. And yeah, that's what I would say.
I love the simplicity of it, and I think that's, too many people get to a certain stage in life and they look back and go, "Oops, I should have done more." You know,
Right? I hear that a lot.
20 year
Because
ago,
it's never too late. Let's put that message out there too. It's never too late to start. So, yeah,
I love that. And one of my favorite sayings is a Chinese proverb: "The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next time, best time is today."
yeah,
And I think that's the automatic piece of it.
yeah.
Um, Now I'm going to go on a slightly twist. What are some of the mistakes you see people making with their financial wellness, that you'd like to help end? What are the horror moments you see every day and you're like, if only?
Right? I love this question. So again, my answers aren't going to be, complicated. One, not knowing your information. So many people have really no idea how much they make, what their monthly expenses are, what their savings are, what their rates are on their loans, what the payoff timelines is. So not knowing your financial data, which is just information, information which is power. So not knowing their financial data, and then oftentimes the mentality, we're young, we're energetic, we're just getting started. We, start to earn some pretty good money and we want to reward ourselves. And I love that. And we forget to prioritize our future. And coming from someone who is most definitely middle age, you blink and it's here. And so I find that sometimes people delay thinking, oh, I'll do a financial plan later. I'll start saving later. I just want to enjoy life now. And while I always want to prioritize joy, we also need to prioritize our future and start again automating some savings and setting it up. Because oftentimes what happens is people come to me in their 40s and their 50s and they're a little bit more tired than they were in their 20s, and they can't imagine working at this level for the rest of their life. And so they feel like they're behind the eight ball on their savings. And it's not to say that it can't be done. You just have to work a little more specifically and a little more strategically when you're getting a later start in life.
Love it. And I think that's, I had a friend who once said, "That's tomorrow me's problem." And I'm like, that's a hell of a way of looking at life, right?
Right? Yeah. That's too funny though.
It's like, I'm
Mm.
not even going to be nice to tomorrow me. Why would I be nice to you? It's just, it feels a little
Interestingly,
mean.
my grandmother used to say, why put off until tomorrow what you can do today? And so it's interesting, like the flip of that. And I've always heard her voice in my head. Why put off until even simple tasks? I'm like, why put off tomorrow what I can do today? Right.
Yep.
So,
I love that. I think that there's a conversation we can go on a tangent. Now that I have you, my gut's telling me I need to ask you about your best networking advice. Um,
oh, yes, yes, yes. I love this.
Totally unprepared, but
I know, but I'm happy for all of this. I love to I truly love to network. Part of that's my, who I am as a person, the connections that I seek in the world. But my best advice is it's twofold. One, never go into a room looking for a client. Go into a room looking for connection, looking for collaboration, looking to get to know people so that you can like, know, and trust, expand your network, be able to offer connections in the future. Clients come organically when we make authentic connections and we look to collaborate with others. So that's my first one. Go in looking for connection, collaboration, not client. And my second one is don't be a weirdo. If you, I mean, it's so basic, but it's like you wouldn't lead a conversation in most other settings with, hi, my name is so and so, and this is what I do. Don't be a weirdo. Just be authentically who you are. Just strike up authentic conversations. Be curious about people. So there you go.
I'm laughing heartily because I have an acronym for weirdo, and I actually embrace. I tell my kids, "We are weird. Just embrace it." I say, "Don't be a creep."
Yeah.
It's
Either way, you get like my point is be who you are,
yep.
be how you would act in, a normal situation. So yeah.
Well,
And if that's a weirdo, I'm here for it. But just show
yeah,
up authentically as that, not
every
intentionally.
time.
Yeah.
I love that, and I think that's one of my favorite pieces of advice is be authentically you. You don't have to remember who you're supposed to be, and
Mm,
life's just too short to be playing the role of someone else. And I find it fascinating. I see people all the time, and they're one way with me, and then when I introduce them to somebody, it's like they're like that weird person on the street corner opening their trench coat, showing everything, and it's like, where did that come from?
that's what
You
I'm talking about, Jeff. Don't be a weirdo.
you weren't a creep yesterday, and my
Yeah.
favorite thing to rail against is the chronic salespeople who they go from being a nice human being when it's one on one, and then they turn into, I call it the Terminator sales mode, where they're like show up and throw up, and they're trying to close deals everywhere, and it's like, wow, how did you get in the room? Like it's a different space. um
Mm-hmm.
and I love that as a wealth manager, you and I are talking about networking, because I think, I we got a text yesterday from a car dealership that's, brand new. It says, "Hey, we're new to the area. In
Oh,
case you didn't know how to buy a car, you can come buy a car."
we'll teach you.
It was like, does that actually work? Like, I was not sitting here thinking, geez, I'd really like a new car. I don't know where to find one. Oh, thank God they texted me and I don't have to.
Now you know. A
It's
for effort, though, right? A for effort. Yeah.
it's like, oh, just stop. Just stop. Humans do business with humans, not with texts,
Yes.
not with
Yes.
cold
Agreed.
calls, not with emails. Now you talk a lot about money mindset.
Mhm.
Let's go into that on a tangent, because honestly, it's not the mechanics. Most people, in Canada, we have a book called The Wealthy Barber, which came out like 30 years ago. And it was, pay yourself first, invest 10% of everything you earn. Um, it's not lack of knowledge that's
Yeah.
leading to where people are. Um, Share your thoughts on mindset, and how perhaps you and I can help people listening to this figure out their mindset and make some changes.
Yeah. I love this perspective. I tend to say it's an 80-20 rule. Everyone thinks the numbers are the difficult part of the equation. And to me, the numbers are like the 20%. It's really, they're easy. It's often high school math and just knowing your numbers, as I referenced earlier. The
Yeah.
80% is the emotional piece, the decision making piece, where our past experiences, our relationships, grief, our, childhood stories, oftentimes it's those emotions that we have assigned to money. And so I really like to spend a good bit of time just talking to people about their emotional satisfaction they have with their life. Because again, we all know how to be wealthy. Spend less than you make and save. Like the book you were referencing, solid advice. Why aren't we all there? And it's for these reasons that we're talking about. And so when we can really start to reframe, first of all, acknowledging what they are and recognizing that most of our limiting beliefs around money came from our childhood, came from those important roles in our lives, whether it's a parent or a guardian or an old boss, and really kind of looking at them and deciding, is this truly what I believe? Or is this just what I've heard? Right. I grew up hearing money doesn't grow on trees. And so everything was always in that just enough scarcity mindset kind of place. And I chose to break that story early on in my life because I knew when I looked around not everybody had that scarcity mindset. So I didn't have proof that that was 100% true. And so I chose to create a different story for myself. Mine is money flows easily and freely to me. I constantly say that to myself. And in fact, it has been a good mantra over the years. But again, kind of looking at, and if it wasn't how, if your family didn't have money discussions in and amongst themselves, perhaps it's how they referred to other people and how they had the opinion of whether they had money or not. And what was that? So it's really kind of, it's not deep work, I would say. It's really just sort of taking a moment to pause and think, what is it that I truly believe about money and what I deserve and what is for me? And acknowledging if that's not 100% true, then you can shift that paradigm and create a different story for yourself.
I love the idea that, and mindset comes into play in a lot of things. It fascinates me that the elite athletes among us, the elite in business, everybody, and golf is an example that
Mhm.
I learned. Somebody actually quantified it, and they said 95% of golf is mental. The other 5% is the skills of the person and the equipment they
Mm.
use.
Yeah.
Uh, I think that's a powerful lesson that we can choose the mindset. So we have more control over it. As I'm a big fan of 80/20, and I recognize it's not a diehard rule, but it's a good, you can't argue with it. And I think that's the thing. If you solve the mindset piece, the how, today I don't know the how, but if I figure out the mindset, tomorrow I'm going to find the how.
It falls into place. Absolutely.
And I think you and we talked about people in transition. That's often nothing more than the wake up moment where they go, oops. and
Mm.
I've seen people late in life going through divorce or the death of a spouse. It becomes traumatic, but if they were to look at the mindset and say, okay, well, here's a chance to start and again, do it today rather than, we didn't do it 20 years ago, but what can we do today? So I think there's some fun there. Let's talk about day-to-day tips. And
Yeah.
again, it's not about the stock picks of the week. I think there's enough of that on TV, but I think most in my world, most investing advice should be boring. Like you said, automate it, set it, forget it. Honestly, one of the things that troubles me is a lot of parents assume, let's talk about kids, they think, oh, they'll learn it at school. Well, do you really want them learning something that important?
Yeah, and oftentimes the education system just isn't equipped to handle that. And so I think it is important, and I love that we're bringing this up. We're both parents. There's a lot of conversations. I think there's an opportunity to really look at your own language and how you're talking about money, how you're talking about others and their money stories and what you're presenting to your family. I think it's important to have the conversations, once your kids are at a reasonable age. I mean, obviously 6-year-olds don't care, but when your kids are in their teens, when they're getting their first jobs, it's important to have those financial discussions in and around, a family table. We have a monthly meeting with our kids, kind of talking about what they're spending, talking about, I want them to understand, mine, I'm going to have 3 in college next year. We know what their expenses are, right? I mean, they just magically get paid, but I also need to set them up for when they're off my payroll, and have them understand, like, all 3 of my kids have investment accounts from their summer jobs. Um, and they're actually really proud of themselves. But had they not had me, right, encouraging them and talking to them about them, and then them speaking to their friends about it. So it's really opening up the conversation and starting young. I mean, we can talk about different strategies for, kids, like having that summer job and then talking about a positive money mindset, talk about setting financial goals, talk about, the opportunity to give to certain places. I mean, there's only so many things you can do with money. Spend it, save it, and give it away, and have those conversations and what's important.
What brings joy? And I love that.
Absolutely.
And I
Yeah.
think a lot
And
of
double
parents,
down on what brings joy and maybe cut
yeah,
back on the things that are matter of convenience and really are of no consequence. You just do it mindlessly. Your sound has cut out for me, Jeff. Can you hear me?
but there we go. Did that work?
There we go. We're back. Or maybe I'm back. Either way. Yeah. Thank you.
I unplugged everything, replugged.
You just get so excited.
Talking about Kinder Surprise.
Yeah.
Uh, my youngest, he loved them because the bright shiny packages, but they were in, the checkout lanes at the grocery stores, and he'd want it. I gotta have it. My life's incomplete without it. Uh,
Obviously.
but he hated the chocolate, and usually within an hour he'd throw the toy away because it was broken. And I was like, why don't we just go to a toy store and buy you a toy? And he's like, well, I want this. And I'm like, but we throw the chocolate away. So
Yeah. I mean, even those simple conversations can be powerful with your kids. Never
yeah,
underestimate like just having a conversation at their level, on their level.
yeah. And I
Mm,
think one of the pieces of advice I give, I have conversations with my kids all the time. Um, I jump in and I trust in our relationship we'll figure things out. Um, my 14-year-old and I, we have the conversation. I'm making this up as I go. There was no guidebook on how to parent that specific child.
mhm.
So I warn them, we're not going to have perfect conversations. There's not going to be, everything's not going to be the best path, but we trust one another enough to know we'll figure out the path.
I love that. Always have those honest conversations and say, hey, we can learn together.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
and that's, by the way, one of my most precious moments is when we acknowledge that we need to figure something out. Neither one of us knows how to. So we figure out, how do we figure it out?
Yeah,
And
I love that. And that's a life skill that is going to serve them. How do we figure it out? Everything is figure outable.
and that's, I love being a podcaster because, depending on the mood I'm in and the challenges I have, guess what? Those are the people I connect with. And
I love that. Yeah.
it's I've had amazing conversations about pretty much everything. Raising teenagers, aging, like there's so many amazing people out there. You don't necessarily have to have the answers. You just, I'm a big fan of having the right questions.
Love that. People are fascinating. That's why I love networking and connections and collaboration because I learned so much about myself and others. And who knew?
And that's the thing. I love conversations with good connectors, and I would encourage people to find their people, because when I meet a good connector, I don't have to sit and talk about the rules of the game and, here's how we play. It's, let's get right down to it, and who do I know that would benefit from knowing you, and vice versa.
Yeah, I love that.
Now, my favorite question, because the whole point of the podcast is I love connecting people to people. If somebody wants to get to know you, first of all, where are you,
Ooh,
and where's your geography that you serve? And then second of all, how can people connect with you and find out more about your mindset and your approach to wealth management?
I love that. Thank you for asking. So, my physical office is in Atlanta, Georgia, but we are a large enough firm, independent firm, that we help anyone with a US residential address. So, IRC Wealth is the website. And I'm happy to share my email. It's amy@ircwealth.com. If people have questions or want to reach out, I can send them a calendar link and we can just hop on a 15-minute call and have a conversation. Um, I like to play on LinkedIn. I'm Amy Getz on LinkedIn, and I'm Amy W. Getz, Getz Finance at Instagram. and who I serve, I'm a wealth manager. So when people have assets, maybe old 401ks or inheritances or things, and they want to have someone walk on that journey with them of investing their assets and being available year round for financial questions, that's what I do. What I don't do is I don't sell any insurances, annuities, whole life. I don't do any transactional business. I don't charge for financial plans. I offer a financial planning session for folks. It's always how we show up and we serve. And from there, someone gets to decide if they want to walk a long term journey with us. So I would say reach out, connect. If something I've said resonates with you, or if you feel like you're in a space of maybe you don't know if it's time, it's okay. Let's have a conversation. I really am a delightful human.
I
I'm
can
happy to
second
chat with
that.
all of them.
Well, and you are a connector first, and one of the things I know about connectors is they care, because you don't connect people if you don't care. So,
Right.
um, I know, I appreciate you taking the time. I want to thank you for being on the show today, Amy.
I sit in gratitude for you, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our show. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we invite you to either click the link below or scan the QR code to register and listen to other episodes of our podcast. Or if you think your business or you would be a great guest to be on our show, we're always looking for experts in one of the 9 elements of holistic wellness. We'd love to have you. You can either click the link below or you can scan the QR code and complete our speaker intake form. Thank you, and to your wellness.